finally, we get all this resolved from our lovely House of Representatives in the Congress, and when it starts coming out, in the news on the real estate side of things, it looks like we are going to have, what would you say, 4 more years of short sales. Wes Jones joins us with Home Helper Consultants, and they've done over 1,000 short sale transactions over the years. Wes, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Ben?
I'm great. You must have felt like there was some good news coming out of Congress and the Senate for the fiscal cliff?
The fiscal cliff. Are you as glad as I am that we are no longer going to be hearing that term?
It was funny. I've seen people look at their pay stubs like, oh my gosh, this big tax. Like, this person got taxed $6 more a week or a month. You're like, wow, I think they're going to handle it.
It was just a heck of a name to get everybody all worked up. But after all of that, and wait until the last minute, there was some good news. Various programs passed. I think most importantly for homeowners, here in Washington and the real estate market in general, it was the extension of the Mortgage Debt Relief Act, which is going to help owner-occupied homeowners not be liable to pay taxes on that debt that's been canceled. So I think that we don't know for sure. This could get extended again. Right now we're looking at 2013 probably being the last year that homeowners are going to be able to take advantage of that. So I think that 2013 will really be the year of the short sale. Banks have finally worked out the kinks over the last 5 years. Probably the last year that they can take advantage of those taxes. So I think that this will be a really good thing. And the faster that we can get through all these distressed properties, the quicker we can get back to a real recovery in the market.
At the end of this segment, I want to talk about what that real recovery may look like once the short sales go through. But for people who are underwater on their home, again, they owe more than it's worth.
Right.
And with this tax extension being extended, this tax break being extended.
That's right.
Then what does that exactly mean for somebody? And maybe go through some of the basics. We haven't really talked about the basics for a while. And, we may have some listeners out there who are like, gosh, what does it mean to me to actually go through a short sale? And what's it going to cost?
That's a great question. After taxes is one of the first questions that I get. And either the second or the third question is probably going to be, hey, this all sounds great. I really think this is something that I need to do. What are the costs associated with a short sale? What are your fees and what is this going to cost me? And that's a great question. And there's even a better answer behind it. And, the answer is a short sale is a free service to a seller. As a real estate agent who negotiates short sales, I couldn't even take a payment from a seller if they wanted to. So you're going to get real estate commissions, on top of your traditional seller-paid closing costs paid for. That's also going to include your title fees, your escrow fees, and your excise tax. So, although it is a free service, it also doesn't mean that it's a get-out-of-jail-free card. Because there can be costs associated with a short sale. And that's not, it's not real estate commissions, but, there's still other things that, can be or will need to be paid for. And, we're seeing some people get behind and not paying on some of these items, and it's really causing some issues the closer we get towards closing. So like I said, title fees, escrow fees, excise tax, and real estate commissions, they're going to get covered by the bank because they would have to pay those in foreclosure. But stuff outside of that, we're not seeing those go through as much. So some of the basics, and you and I would think, okay, well, this shouldn't be a problem, but some people will let go, is homeowners association dues. If you're in a condominium complex, you've definitely got to keep those up. That can cause a huge delay or can even stop a sale. Utilities, here in Washington, quite a few utilities are lienable, so you definitely got to keep up on your utilities. You're also, one of the things that would be really good that a lot of people don't talk about is most people who are in a short sale situation may not be paying their mortgage payment. So that automatic payment comes out, and a lot of times what do we got? Insurance. Your homeowner's insurance is also attached into that mortgage payment, and that might not be getting paid. And like Michael said earlier today, our homes up here in the Northwest, they get hammered by the elements. And I've seen, vacant homes, all of a sudden the pipes burst and you've got an issue. And if you're not up to date on your insurance, now you've got a real problem where if you have been up to date on your insurance, there's a good chance something like that can get fixed. So that's something that's going to be really important. A couple other items.
As a seller, not to sound too on the wrong side of the fence. As a seller, I'm going through a short sale. I'm not making my payment. A pipe burst, and I don't have insurance. What does it matter to me, really?
I think it does. Absolutely, it matters because if the goal is to sell the home and avoid foreclosure, you're not going to find too many buyers that are going to want to assume
running water.
Yeah, they're not going to want to assume that type of problem. So you could say, that's the buyer's problem. They could also say, hey, this is not something that I'm willing to inherit. So a short sale, the buyer's getting a great deal, but at the same time, they've got to want the house bad enough, to wait through this process and burst pipes or, a tree through the roof or any other number of problems, could come up, and you would definitely want to keep that insurance. Some of those other,
I would say a tree through the roof. The agent may not be walking them into that house. If you're going to go look in the house, like, well, that one's got a tree on top of it, I think we'll skip it.
No, you're absolutely right, and they'd want to take care of that before. But as short sales, they can take 2 or 3 months. And any number of things could happen by the time that you're under contract during that process. So, some of those other fees that are out there. We've got a lot of septic. A lot of people on septic up here. A lot of people on well up here, and those just may not be other fees that the bank are going to go ahead and take care of. So that either has to be negotiated with the buyer or the seller, may need to go ahead and pay some of those at closing to allow the sale to go through.
Mm-hmm. So really, it sounds like a lot of it can be covered, but you're still be prepared to come to the table with a few bucks.
Absolutely. The best case scenario is for a seller to have to pay zero out of pocket. And that's what we always shoot for, but some of these items do not get approved. Sometimes, like utility bills, or same with the HOA bills. We know people going into this, they're in distress and they're having trouble paying those. We might be able to get a payment for those. We might not. I'd say it's probably a 50-50 chance there. So they just need to be prepared to come to the table with some funds, towards some of those additional expenses. And, we're not looking at something that's monumental, and it's definitely worth doing to avoid foreclosure.
Yeah, it sounds like, because ultimately when somebody's going to do a short sale, their goal is to avoid foreclosure in most circumstances. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think that's the number one reason, it is to avoid foreclosure.
So if you're trying to avoid foreclosure, then your goal really is to sell the house. There's no use going into a short sale and kind of dancing around the fact that you do want to sell it. Or I think a lot of people may do that.
I think some people might, but the reality is if the goal is to sell the property, you need to be committed.
No, all in, really.
Absolutely. You do need to be all in because, there is a lot of paperwork that can go along with this. There's nothing that's too short about a short sale. The process could be anywhere from 4 to 8 months. So you've got to be engaged during that process, and it's something that you've got to want. And, there can be some costs associated with it. And, we just see over and over again some of these things that lapse, or some of these items that a seller will let lapse, like their utilities or maybe their HOA dues. You come up to closing, those have to be paid, and if the buyer is not willing to accept those and the lender is not going to contribute, then we are looking for the seller to bring those current, and I think that it's only fair that they do so.
So, Wes, last question. Here we are. We're into 2013.
Mm-hmm.
House prices are going up.
Sure.
You look at all the stats; they seem to be going up. Inventory's down. Anybody who puts anything on the market seems to be, in pretty good shape. What is that going to do to affect the short sale market with rising prices in the Seattle area?
Well, I think, with rising prices, you're going to see, fewer people that were maybe a year ago, maybe they were 5% underwater. Maybe today they're more even, and they're in a position where this is something that they can ride out. So, with obviously with rising home prices, you've got fewer homes that are underwater and hopefully fewer short sales.
So do you think that, and this, I don't know that you'll know this, but do you think the psychology of being in a house that's underwater that you owe more makes you want to get out of it? And if the house price rises to a point that you are now even or have some equity, do you tend to think that the psychology of a homeowner is like, oh, wow, I own something again?
Oh, I think there's definitely been a switch, and a lot of it is, behind the psychology, and the mentality, and, it's tough. The last 4 or 5 years have been tough on a lot of people, and, when you see that your home value is 15, 20, any percent upside down, that's difficult, and you wonder, hey, why am I doing this? And then as we start to inch up more towards even or even have some equity again, hopefully we see more of that, pride of ownership, and, I'll be these rising home prices, there's something that I like to see. It's great for the area. It's great for the economy. It's what we need. And, maybe we'll get out of this short sale mess sooner than we had thought.
As always, Wes, thanks so much for joining us. We do have to go to break. When we come back, Ryan Leopold will join us, because if you're thinking about selling a house, whether it's a short sale or not, you're going to probably need a place to live. Well, what are the first steps you better do to make sure that you can afford the next place? You'll find out in just a few minutes. We'll be right back.